artist is not one who is inspired, but one who inspired others. Now, we are here with a very, very special artist who has not only inspired people in the past, but is continuing to do so. Say hello to Anoma Wijewardene. Hi, Anoma.
Hi.
So, we are where all the magic happens.
Yeah, a lot of agony as well before any magic happens. But anyway, that's part of it.
Okay, so we'll get straight into it, right? Now, for over the years, all of the art that you've been doing have been themed around peace, diversity, sustainability, right? What draws you to these themes?
I think it's not that I thought of them as themes, but so much as that's what concerns me. These are my anxieties, these are my existential anxieties, and this is my journey to try and question and find out about these issues. And that's what's not inspiring me. I suppose it does inspire me, but it's just worrying me, if you like, and these are the things that I'm concerned about. And that's what I then express through the art as well. I think that's what it is,
You have said that your existential anxieties have driven your artwork process. Just tell us a little bit about it. How does that work?
Well, it's because I suppose that's what one's living with, one's thinking about, one's worrying about what is going on in the world. Maybe I was worried about from childhood even, perhaps. And so that just pervades you, or you read about it and you're thinking about it and you watch videos about it. So naturally that's what then starts to come out through the process of one's actual drawings and writings, which I do a lot of before I actually work. I do a lot of sketch work. And then it comes out in the paintings, So that I don't think I've done a painting that isn't in the end about some internal journey or angst or question or worry or pain or joy even, yes. So it's just expressing myself. I express it like that,
And you are inspired by anything?
I don't know what, well, yes, I suppose, well, not by anything, but whatever one is dealing with, yes, I suppose you can put it that way.
Okay, you've spoken of, even when we spoke earlier, of James Lovelock, his work in Gaia, and also Schumacher, right? They discuss this kind of codependency between nature and man, and that's also kind of evident in your work.
Absolutely. Right? I feel that we are interdependent, and it's very interesting that you say nature and man. So everyone here, we take our clothes off. What are we? Are we any different from nature? The same as a tree. And yet we see ourselves as superior or separate, and that we can dominate nature when actually we are actually nature. And so we're actually, by raping nature, we're raping ourselves. In fact, that's how I see it. It's your clothes, it's the roof above our heads that makes us imagine we are not nature.
Okay,
but we're not. We are, and we are interdependent. We are nature. It's our separation from each other, and if you like, our separation from whether you're one race or the other, or one country or the other. This is the problem. So it is about that unity between us that is something that concerns me, actually.
Great. So you've done many installations over the years, many exhibitions over the years, but there are seven very special, I would say, exhibitions that you did that kind of discuss sustainability, climate change. Your very first was in 2005. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that was because very much I was inspired by the writing of Rainer Maria Rilke, who is a German metaphysical poet.
Okay.
And he was a great lover of nature. And I think at the time, we didn't really have an expression saying climate change. There wasn't really a climate change, I think, at that time. But obviously, Gaia, Lovelock, Schumacher were concerned about. Schumacher wrote "Small is Beautiful." In 60s, I think. So, we knew all this. So that really kind of came together, and that's how that exhibition happened. Not that I was thinking of climate change, because I don't think anybody was, but I was concerned about those. And then the way Rilke talks about loving nature and how small the images in that, there's a huge sort of scapes, but with man very, very tiny, because that's all we are, very tiny in the space of time, in the space of the whole world. We're here for a brief moment. And so that's what set me off about that, you know.
I think also very interesting was your exhibition Aqua, which was in Maldives. I think that was also a very interesting theme about the rising sea levels.
Yeah, so Aqua, it sort of came together that I was invited to show there at the Riti Rao. And it was soon after the cabinet meeting that the president had underwater.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. He had a cabinet meeting underwater. And that really kind of was to sort of remind everybody that they would be the biggest sufferers from climate change. I mean, they will in time not be, there will be no Maldives. Right? They'll be underwater. It will be. So they will be at the front line of climate change. And so I really wanted to work on the idea of water, and so that's what the whole exhibition was about there.
I think compared to now space, and then you had Aqua, Deliverance was a little bit different, right? It was trilingual, it was multimodal. Why did you decide to suddenly increase your repertoire?
I was I wouldn't say becoming more activist, if you like, but I was realizing that we really did have a major issue that nobody was addressing, or not enough. When nobody's addressing it enough now, you know. So 2012 also, I mean, I even had people coming and saying, well, you know, what's the big deal here? Do you know what I mean? So I wanted it to be very interactive. I wanted it to be far more, the others were a little bit more poetic, if you like, and sort of subtle. And then I felt this was time to be more direct. So I worked with the International Water Management Institute, I think, IMI it's called, and also with the Center for Poverty Analysis here, and they're experts on sustainability, etc. as well. So we used the words, their science. So I wanted to make science, poetry, and we used some music and art, and it was on the street. So we had street art for the first time, I think, huge things on the courtyard, not the courtyard, the outside courtyard of the Dutch hospital, where the paintings and information, and then also panels on which people could write their thoughts about climate change.
Oh, that was very interesting. And I like how you collaborate with a variety of people, from poets to even activists, to get your point across.
Yeah, absolutely.
How is it working with others, collaborating with others on projects? How does the process work?
It's very exciting because it stretches it in different ways. You're going like this on your own, and then somebody comes along and says that, and somebody else says that, and they have their different needs, and you're trying to balance everybody up, you know what I mean, and try and make it also visually work, and yet work for... I've worked with Venuri, the dancer, I've worked with musicians, and so it's performance art, and it's exciting, but quite challenging also.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest challenge you ever faced in any of these?
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure you have a lot of stories.
Yeah, I have a lot.
You can share.
I have a lot of stories. I'm trying to think what... well, I suppose it's always a big challenge showing abroad, right? Because you're shipping stuff. I was showing at Sotheby's in Hong Kong. You don't know if it's going to arrive, it's going to be hung. You look at all the layouts of the gallery space. Your space is there. It's going to be like this. And you map it out, you draw it out, and you structure it. But still, when you finally put an installation together is when you know if it's going to work. So you don't actually know if it's going to work in that location, at that spot, with that lighting and that, you know what I mean? There's much more you can control with a painting. It goes to the framer and it's done, it's cooked.
Yeah.
You know, it's like baking a cake, but you don't actually know, you know, how it's going to actually be in the final thing. So that's very challenging, and that's probably the most difficult thing actually.
So would you say you prefer
Guess what?
paintings?
I like it. I like it all. I like it. Actually, I do like. I mean, there are different aspects of oneself that one finds or one discovers when you start doing something that's slightly different. Yeah, I mean, it's challenging doing a painting as well. Some paintings, you know, are such a challenge that in the end you try this way, that way, and then finally you say, you know, that can't work. It's not going to work. So that's also challenging. It's also difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But that thing, we know the opening is tomorrow, and you're putting up the installation today, and you're not really sure if it's going to click. And I've been very lucky because thankfully every time, I mean, there was one person that was jumping up and down looking at it, you know.
Oh, wow,
as I set it up, my friend who was, one of my assistants, she was just so thrilled to see it because she couldn't really see what was in my head. Yeah. So when she finally saw it, it was like, oh my God, she was so excited.
That must be exciting for you as well to see all of this.
Well, and what was really not just exciting, but not heartwarming either, because somebody stood in front of an installation of mine, not one of the climate change ones, and she started crying.
Oh, wow.
And she said to me, I don't know why I'm crying. I didn't know art could make you cry. And she, it was not in a bad way, but she was moved. And she didn't understand this. She'd never had experienced that. She maybe didn't experience that much art. And so we talked about what the issues were. You know, it was just, so it takes you all kinds of different ways and different challenges all the time. Yeah, even after it's done, right?
Great. Okay, so I'm going to read this. One of your exhibitions was a quote, right? It says, the world is not given by his father, but borrowed from his children. I think that's a very interesting quote and also a title for your exhibition.
Yeah, that was my last climate change exhibition, which was in London in 2019.
Okay.
So I used quotations for each of the paintings from various different people. That were very hard hitting, because as I've gone on, I've become more kind of about it, you know, because there's no nice, nobody's listening anyway, even if I am saying it loudly, but nobody was listening to the poetic way of putting it, you know, I felt. And so I was becoming more sort of about how I want to say it. And so that's why I used those quotes. And also that exhibition was dedicated to Greta Thunberg.
Oh.
Yeah. Who, as you know,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't have to explain. So someone actually did ask me recently, so, you know, you're quite advanced. I should put it sort of, you know, you're very different age from the 16-year-old Greta Thunberg. And yet you've dedicated all your paintings, and there's a little image of her in each painting. Very, very symbolic. I mean, you can't see anything, so it's just a little red figure, because red for warning. So that's what I wanted to use, these very strong, because she's very strong about what she's saying. She doesn't care a flying anything about, you know, what anyone thinks, whether it's Trump, whether it's anybody, you know, she'll say it as it is, that because of her health condition, which is great. So I think it's that's why I wanted to use these very, very strong quotes, you know, and it's entirely true.
Of course.
We don't own anything. We don't own the earth. We probably don't own, you know, what we think is, you know, our super yacht or whatever it is, because, you know, in fact, it comes from something and it goes to something. And actually, it is borrowing it from the children. It is our children's future. And, you know, I don't have any children. I can't understand how people who have children and grandchildren behave in this unsustainable way, continue. Because, as Mahatma Gandhi said, the world has enough for man's needs, but not his greed.
That's very interesting and so true.
And he said that when? I mean, when was the Mahatma? So look at, we're just being sucked up by our greed.
Definitely.
And taking it away from our children. So that was the title. It's not given from our fathers. We're taking it from our children.
Thank you for that. So I was wondering, you've done now 7 exhibitions to do with, you know, climate change. Was this planned? Did you think, I'm going to do this series?
No way. It's not even that I realized that these exhibitions were about this till I actually was archiving all my exhibitions, and then I realized it sort of fell into 3 categories.
Okay.
Some of the exhibitions over the years have been about transformation, self-transformation, growth, if you like, and some 6 have been about unity, diversity, peace, reconciliation, harmony, all this sort of. And then the rest were all on climate change, I suddenly realized. But it's not that I sat there thinking that these are the things that concern me. These are things that I'm struggling with throughout my life and exploring and wondering about, if you like. And so that's what's expressed in the art.
Great. So I'm assuming there will be more in the future as well, or will you just go with the flow?
Who knows?
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't know how much time there'll be left. I don't know what the flow is going to be like. I was blocked for a good part of last year. COVID. I was in Sydney showing an exhibition called Kintsugi, which is about Kintsugi is about things that are broken coming together and still being beautiful. So that I was working on in March 2020.
Oh.
When COVID happened. So I arrived back. I took a flight back a week early from the exhibition. It was going on. I came back because our borders closed. The night before the borders closed, I landed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I had the police checking on me every day because that's what they did at the beginning. Because they also didn't know what they were checking for, also, because it was very early days. We didn't know, and so I was isolating, and then then in fact very soon after that we had the whole isolation thing happening, and so it was quite interesting because various people say, so nothing's happening, so you must be so like it's all calm and quiet and all, no? So you must be painting and working. And I spoke to my friend who's a poet, and she said, I'm also getting the same thing, and we're all too traumatized to do anything. We're just sitting there and like a lump. So yes, one gets blocked, and then something kicks it into gear. Somebody says, something that's happened, or I don't know, something releases so it's one can't control it. And it's I read that creativity is a bit like fishing. You put the line out, and then you have to be still and wait for the fish. I've done no fishing, so I don't really know. Actually, I've done once, but till it pulls, and then you have to know how to reel it in very quietly, so you don't lose the fish. So it's a little bit it's a bit hopeful. It's a bit, you know what I mean? It's a bit of a toss-up whether you get it or not, whether it's going to happen or not. So it's not like, I'm going to do this and I know how to do this, and if it were like that, it would be wonderful, but
well, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So are you working on anything at the moment?
Yes, I'm working on various things, a couple of things for not in Sri Lanka, but also working on, various bits of work that I'm doing. It's all a little bit tangential at the moment.
Okay.
But definitely there's about 5 lines of work that I'm doing, but I'm getting distracted by various things as well, so that's also a problem, But
course.
yeah, there are things I have to do. Yeah. But I don't like to talk about what I'm going to be doing, because you never know how it's going to work out. No, I don't know either. Will it work? It's like the installations, you don't actually know. That's why the installations are scary, because you've got an audience, you have an opening, you have an idea, so it's got to work, whereas this, it's a little bit more fluid at the moment, which is nice. You can be flexible.
That's great, actually. So tell us about your book.
Oh, the book, somebody mentioned to me about 10 years ago, longer than 10 years ago, and I think you've got to the age where I think you have, we need to, you really should be doing a book, you should have done a book. You should have done a book. So I thought, it's so boring, to be doing a book when you can be doing paintings instead, you know what I mean? But anyway, I started working on it, and it actually took 7 years. Took longer than both my degrees anyway.
Wow.
And it was quite a struggle. It was very hard work. I'm not keen on books. Having said that, I did do another one for the Venice Biennale work that I did, but that was very kind of containable. But then, yes, so that was again, that's when as I said, you had to then sort of look at it in a very critical way and start looking at the work in an archival kind of manner, and how you would represent, the last 50 years.
Of course.
Of work.
Speaking of the Venice Biennale, you are the first Sri Lankan to have a solo installation.
Apparently, yes.
That's amazing. How?
Well, really, I didn't even want to do it because actually they contacted me, and actually same thing with the Sotheby's thing. They contacted me and I just ignored it. Then they called me. Because again, it's a headache, when you have to do something that you don't know, you know what I mean? So I was also in the middle of the book. I was in the middle of the book. So I actually said, to Shahara, who is giving the presentation for this climate change thing on the 13th. And I said, I can't, I just can't, I've got to do the book. And then she said to me, you're getting old. You're probably not going to be asked again. Are you really going to say no to this? So, and then my gallerist in London, and he just said, Anoma, nobody says no to the Venice Biennale. What are you doing? Having said that, I just read a book where a woman didn't want to do it. But anyway, she finally did do it. She had to get rid of her husband though. But anyway, but anyway, yes, so that's how that happened. And that was a lot of work. There was a lot of work because I was still in the middle of trying to do the book. So I launched the book in London at St. Martin's, my old art college, on March the 8th, Women's Day, in London, came back, packed up all the work for Venice. Venice opened on the 23rd of May, I think. Wow. And then went on till November. It's a 6-month exhibition.
Yeah.
And so, yes, in retrospect, I'm very glad I did it. I am. And I was actually oddly enough, I was going back to the finissage, that was the vernissage, finissage in November, and Venice was flooded with water. Do you remember that time where it was the worst flooding for decades? They've had bad
so
floods.
That was when that happened.
That we were going to go for the finissage, and my friend in England was coming with me, and she said, I don't want to go. So in the end, I didn't go because, we'd have been having to wade through, in our wellies and whatever. And the palazzo that my work was in was under 6 foot of water, but our work was upstairs. In Venice, a lot of the buildings, everything is on another floor because very often it gets flooded.
Your event, that's on Monday. So that's a discussion on ecological art by you. So can you tell us a little bit?
Well, it's something I said no to because the Alliance Française asked me if she could do this. And I said, and this was a year ago, so I said, no, I don't want to do anything where there's people. I can't do that. Because it was COVID. I didn't want to get COVID, right? So I said, I don't want to do this. And anyway, and then she's very persevering. She's a wonderful woman. And she just said, well, is there someone else who can put it together for you? Because, you've got a lot of exhibitions on this subject. And I really like the idea of combining and explaining and discussing how this work happened. It's unusual that you've done so many exhibitions over such a period of time. And so she pushed me, and then I ended up asking Shahara De Silva whether she would mind doing this, and she had done something before, and she'd been very supportive with the book and made me do the. Actually, now I realize she's quite key in pushing me to do things. But anyway, she suggested. I asked her would she, and she said yes, fine. And then they wanted a panel discussion with environmentalists, and so there's Anjali Watson from Wildlife whatever Trust, and then there's Savera from Ananta Sustainables, and she's much younger than some of the others. So there's a nice age range as well. All women. That is just coincidental. And so they will be discussing the art. So
that's great.
I was not going to be even going, but I think I'll just go and sit in the back quietly.
Of course, I think people would love to see you and chat about your work as well.
And there's going to be a panel discussion, and then there's going to be Q&A. But if anyone wants to speak to me personally, of course I'm happy to talk. But the panel will deal with the whole event. And it's video. There's videos of my work. There's a video of a very short bit of an interview about climate change. And Ramya Jira Singha's poetry, a bit of her poetry being read with the work, which is a video.
That's beautiful.
So that's some of my video work. And then 7 exhibitions, images from. And the other good thing that perhaps I should mention is that 2 of the 7 exhibitions have been in Sri Lanka. Only 2. And only 1 in Colombo, Deliverance. And Earthlines was in Goal. And the other 5 have been in Dubai, in Hong Kong, in Maldives, in Sydney, and in London. So people would not have necessarily, it's an opportunity perhaps for people to see it. Obviously they don't see the real thing because they've sold or gone or whatever, but they see video and images from them. Okay. So it should be quite a fun evening, I think.
Definitely.
I think it'd be
interesting.
interesting.
People would have really enjoy and learn a lot from it as well.
I hope so. I hope it'll be interesting for them.
Sure. Since you are so passionate about climate change, is there any message you would like to share with the people, the viewers, about what they can do in their small way at least?
Well, I'd say to everybody, we're going to be out of here. But most people, a lot of people have children. They will have children. So think about your children. That's all I have to say.
I agree. Very, very important. I think that alone should inspire people to work on it.
Yeah. We're just here for a very brief moment.
So thank you, Anoma, for that wonderful chat.
Yeah, it's great to
and
meet you
we're
too.
all very, very excited to hopefully be a part of your discussion as well on Monday. So don't forget to catch the discussion on Ecological Art by Anoma. The event will be held on Monday, and you can also register for it via Eventbrite.